Welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster guy. I almost said that idiot guy because I was reading some of the comments in the chat room on the side. You guys y'all just trying to mess me up here. But that's half the fun of it. Glad to have you here with us today, whether you're live and in the chat room, we hope, commenting and making fun, or watch us on YouTube. And we'd love to have you watch us on YouTube. And we'd love even more to have you catch us live, because live is just a ton of fun. There's the pre-show where we chat beforehand, and then, of course, the post-show afterwards where Al Bunt brings balloons and blowers, you know, the kind of things that go brrr. He likes those. And we have a good time, so it'll be a lot of fun. And this is segment 1 today. Segment 2 will be the streaming idiots, which will come up after this. So we want you to hang around if you're watching us live. We will release Streaming Idiots on Friday, so it'll be available there on YouTube if you have to go early and miss it. Where do we start today? Oh, let's start with our mantra. One guy, one PC, one awesome broadcast. Now that's a goal. That's not necessarily what I think we're doing today. I'm realistic enough to know that this is not an awesome broadcast, but hopefully you can tell that it could be. It could be, and it could just need you to be doing the broadcast to make it the awesome broadcast. But one PC that's properly equipped with a i7 processor. I like the solid state hard drive as the main drive. I've got 3 monitors in front of me, but you don't need 3. You can use 1. Good solid internet connection, audio mixer, good mic. You know, I love my mic. It's an Audio-Technica mic, shotgun mic, sitting just out of the frame set over here. Well, there it is, right there. You can see, and so it's close enough to me. And you know, the right software too makes all the difference. VidBlaster, I think, is the right software, and I think. In fact, that's where I want to start today's show, is to talk about VidBlaster, of course. Oh, and by the way, full disclosure, I am an authorized VidBlaster reseller. So you can buy VidBlaster from me if you go to my website, that VidBlaster guy, right down there. Whoops, there. That VidBlasterguy.com. If you go to the website and go to the store, you can buy it. If you need an upgrade, you'll have to shoot me an email because we handle that manually. But I can help you with all those needs, and you get the Tom Sinclair personalized service if that's the case. So please, if you're considering buying VidBlaster, buy it from me. It'll be a great experience. I promise. I promise. I do. And the other thing about VidBlaster is VidBlaster's been going on since 2007, I think was the first release. Maybe 2008. I stumbled over it in 2009. And just loved it. For me, VidBlaster has the shallowest learning curve for a beginner of any of the live streaming software, you know, like Wirecast and vMix and some of the others. I think VidBlaster is definitely the easiest to learn first time out of the box. If you want to be successful by downloading it today and broadcasting your church service on Sunday, VidBlaster is going to be the one that's going to work for you. And we're gonna go through some of that in just a minute to show how easy it is to set it up on the first time. But I want to start out with a piece of news on VidBlaster, and this is not the easy beginner news. This is for the more advanced users, but it's really cool. Mike Versteeg, who is the developer of VidBlaster, has been working furiously behind the scenes on a new streamer. As you recall, the streamer is a module. VidBlaster uses the module system, and in the module system, every function is assigned to a module. And the streamer's function is obviously that which streams. And so the streamer in the past has relied on Flash Media Live Encoder behind the scenes to do the encoding heavy lifting. And a bunch of us that frequent the VidBlaster forum, and by the way, suggest that you go to the forum and take a look. It's forum.vidblaster.com. Hey Rob, glad to have you again this week. And you can see all the different stuff that's going on with VidBlaster, kind of a peek behind the scenes. You can get glimpses into features that are being requested and being discussed as to how to be implemented. It can be a lot of fun. I've put some feature requests in myself, and it's neat to see that sometimes they end up in the software. That's pretty cool. But a feature request was made a while back. I think I may have made it. Yeah. Well, if not, I'll take credit for it. A feature request was made a while back to use a different codec besides Flash Media Live Encoder in order to, maybe there was an encoder out there that was more efficient, that when it did compression, it didn't require so much CPU to do compression. Maybe it used a different codec that could do all that stuff without so much CPU horsepower being required. And so, that was just sort of my general suggestion. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just know enough of the words that I can throw them around and fool, 80% of the people 20% of the time, or whatever that rule is. So the idea was, I thought maybe I could just get the ball rolling, get the discussion going about finding a more efficient way to do the streaming and the encoding. Because VidBlaster was getting beat up in the press, or not the press, but in kind of reviews and chat rooms and forums. VidBlaster was getting beat up for being a CPU hog, and I knew that the encoding process, even though it wasn't in VidBlaster, it was Flash Media Live Encoder. I think there's somebody behind me with a feather that's tickling me on the neck. They're probably in a green suit or something, and I just haven't seen them. Sorry about that. We're doing chroma key today. This is what it normally looks like. And it doesn't look like there's anybody behind me in a green screen, so it must just be my imagination. Sorry about that. Anyway, boy, I get distracted so easily at my age. And you forget what you're talking about, and then you have to ad-lib for a few minutes until your brain kind of kicks back in. Oh, there we go. I got it. All right. So the suggestion was to have a different encoder be used within VidBlaster. And, my thought was that encoders could be somewhat interchangeable. And if you've got an encoder like Flash Media Live Encoder that's operating in the background, and VidBlaster is sending to it the settings that it wants to use, and then Flash Media Live Encoder is accepting those settings, reconfiguring itself according to those settings, and then starting to stream, that should work with any other encoder that does command line, has a command line structure for receiving its information, receiving its settings. And I knew that FFMPEG was one of those. In fact, if you've looked at the stuff at FFMPEG, it's like a 5,000 piece puzzle. It's amazing. All the slash settings that go into it and how to make it, except because it does more than just stream. It'll re-encode video for from one file to another kind of file. I mean, it's a great tool if you understand how to use it. But for me, it was like Greek. I mean, it wasn't even like Greek. It was like Martian. I didn't even understand I didn't even see words, letters that made sense to me. It was amazing. But I'm kind of slow. And so I thought, well, what if we could use another encoder that, like FFmpeg, that used different codecs that might be more efficient. And again, I read just enough to be dangerous, but I knew that that FFmpeg had implemented, if that's the right word, or was using the H.264 codec, and had also used a hybrid of that, which I think is the X264, and that at some point it was going to be using the H265 or something. So anyway, it's a open source project, and so there are a lot of modifications to it, and there are a lot of people working on it. So it seemed to be a pretty good fit so far as staying up to date with what's going on, because as you know, well, maybe you don't know, Adobe, who wonderfully made Flash Media Live Encoder available to us for free, no longer supports it. There will not, I mean, we're on version 3.2 now, and there will never, ever be a FMLE 3.3 or 4.0 or anything. They're done. They're not going any further with it. And so to have VidBlaster kind of built around an encoder that, I won't say it's obsolete, but it's an orphan, seemed to be a little, what's the right word? Somebody in the chat room help me with the right word here, because it escapes me. I don't want to be too negative, but it's not a good idea. How about that? It's not a good idea to base a great program like VidBlaster on an orphan, obsolete encoder. Abandoned. Yeah, Tommy House from Montgomery, Alabama. If you're ever passing through Montgomery, look for the Montgomery Biscuits AA baseball field, and you'll probably see Tommy out there because he works with the Biscuits. So the idea was to find a different encoder that could be more up to date and give us some of the latest, greatest toys and tools. Dave, counterintuitive is great, yes. And John says, is FMLE what makes my videos turn green? No, John, I think you left them in the back of the refrigerator too long, and they turn green all by themselves. Yeah. No, I'm sorry, I'm teasing. These guys in the chat room just love to get me off track. It's like when you had a substitute teacher in school, you know, and you would ask the substitute teacher all sorts of questions, and you'd never ever get around to the subject. Or if you had your favorite teacher and you knew that, you know, he played football in college or something like that, and you'd ask him questions about that, and 30 minutes later he was still talking about football and never got to the main subject. That's the way these guys are like me, with me right now. They're doing their best. Anyway, where were we? We were talking about encoders and codecs and trying to stay up to date. So anyway, to make an incredibly short story long, Mike Versteeg has been working on implementing that feature. And to do that, he didn't want to take the old streamer and, you know, put new wine in old wineskins, to coin a phrase, but rather decided to start fresh. And so he started with a new rendition of the streamer, which is streamer version 3, which has not been released, by the way, yet. So we're talking about something that I guess we used to call vaporware. Maybe it'll be there, maybe it doesn't. It won't, but I think enough is going on behind the scenes to assure that we're going to see it soon, or at least one day. Anyway, Streamer 3 uses FFMPEG, I think, as the basis for the encoding. And that allows for all sorts of options that are more up to date with today's tech than, you know, the 3-year-old Flash Media Live encoder. Not that the FMLE is not good and not doing as good, you know, it's still doing as well as it ever did and has lots of options, most of which I don't understand. But thankfully, we can have somebody like Mike that can take FFmpeg, or FMLE for that matter, and pull out the essentials of what's needed to balance compression versus CPU versus bandwidth. And so you get those, you know, if you remember an algebraic equation, you know, can be solved for one variable, but solving it for 3 variables becomes a little tougher, and that's what he's trying to do behind the scenes to give us the best possible options depending on our bandwidth, depending on our CPU, and then depending on our desired goals in terms of resolution and frame rate. So there are lots of options there, and he's, you know, experimenting with different ways to do it. And I love the way he experiments because it's doing real-time stuff. I mean, he'll take video and he'll go out and say, okay, I'm going to do a stream on Ustream. You guys take a look and tell me what you think. And he'll stream it. And he'll stream, you know, a trailer from a movie that's coming up that he can get in public domain that was high resolution. And he tries different compression rates and different frame rates. I mean, not frame rate, excuse me, different resolutions. And is able to, you know, put his testing right out there for everybody to look at and to comment on. And I highly commend that. I think that's great. And I think as a result, he gets some really good suggestions. He gets some really good direction. And that's great too, because there's some really super folks that are, following the development of VidBlaster, like my good buddy Martin Kay at Zen Computing in Manchester, United Kingdom. Shout out to Martin. Anyway, that's the preface for what I'm about to say. I'm sorry. This news thing has just gone way, way long. VidBlaster will soon include the AAC audio codec as one of your options. And I think that is huge. I think that is huge. Today, this show is being broadcast. Dacast, DACAST.com, is our content delivery network, our CDN. And we use one of their streaming points in Washington, D.C., and it gets sent out to everywhere from there. And they have, part of it is a flash feed, our 864 by 480, 30 frames a second feed that's being encoded at, I think, 1500 kbps. Plus the audio part of that is an MP3, which is encoded at 128K. And then we have a second stream that is sent to Dacast, and I think they send it somewhere else, and it gets re-encoded, and that's like, 144 by, pick a number, 90. I don't know. One day I'll have to figure out what it is. A really low resolution stream at 300 kbps, 30 frames a second. And in addition to taking that, they also take my MP3 audio and they re-encode it to AAC so that folks that have iPads and iPhones can watch. Can listen. They could watch anyway. They just couldn't hear anything. And so this is huge. Why Apple won't allow other audio codecs, I don't know. Maybe it's a simplicity by design, that there's only one, and make everybody else, kowtow to what you want. But regardless, within a short period of time, VidBlaster natively will be able to support that, and it's through this new streamer. And I think that's going to be really huge, really huge. I've got a client now that is working with the Independent Association of Minor League Baseball. Independent minor league baseball teams all over the country are calling about VidBlaster. And, unfortunately, this didn't happen 2 months ago for them, because they were having to buy a license to the AAC codec, which you can install into Flash Media Live Encoder. For the future, any of those teams that join, won't have to do that, because the AAC will be available to them innately in the VidBlaster. And the really good news is, since FFMPEG is open source software, however they have made the agreement, the AAC won't cost VidBlaster users anymore. So VidBlaster doesn't have to go up by $160 to include the cost of an AAC license, because it's being licensed through the folks that put together the FFmpeg. Now take that with a grain of salt and consider the source. That's my understanding of the situation. It could very well be a little different than that, but that's my read on how it all came about. But I think this is great. I think this is great. I think it's great on several levels. Number one is AAC. That's going to be super. And I know that's going to help a lot of folks out natively. Number two is, I think as FFmpeg continues to be developed and rewritten, modernized, whatever you want to call it, it means that VidBlaster will have built into it that strength, that muscle. I would pull this back, but the guns would scare you. Yeah. The VidBlaster has got built into it now this kind of non-obsolescence based on a third party, based on their ability to continue to develop and move forward, and then based on VidBlaster's ability to kind of rewrite the streamer to take advantage of new settings that'll be coming. But that's okay. I think that's a good path to take. Unfortunately, that wasn't available with Flash Media Live Encoder, even though we, I think, started out with 3.0 or 3.1. ended up on 3.2, but I don't know that there were any improvements in there that you could take advantage of. I think they were mostly bug fixes. And anybody that's ever used Flash Media Lab Encoder, by itself or with VidBlaster, knows that sometimes it can be a little freaky. So we'll see how this new one does. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and as soon as it's available, who's going to be downloading it first and trying it out, because it's probably going to show up the Wednesday morning before a Wednesday show. And I hope it works, or otherwise you're going to see a black screen. No, I mean, you're going to have the option. You can use the old encoder if you're comfortable with it, and all you do is flash, or if you want to expand your audience and go to iOS natively like that, that's going to be great. I mean, you'll have to be in conversation with your CDN to see how they handle it, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool. Now, again, full disclosure, this show today is being put together. I mean, the behind-the-scenes production is that VidBlaster is doing all the heavy lifting so far as the pretty stuff is concerned. The intro, the green screen, the chroma key rather that's going on now, the upper thirds, lower thirds, all that kind of stuff is happening in VidBlaster, but we're using Wirecast to do the streaming encoding portion and the recording portion for that matter. So we're, I would refer you to a Streaming Idiots show that we did maybe 3 weeks ago called Blending Software Switchers, where we talked about using different softwares like VidBlaster, Wirecast, and vMix together to sort of pair their strengths. And the encoding process was one of the weaknesses for VidBlaster because of the CPU usage that Flash Media Lab Encoder required. So it would be interesting to see, and I'm definitely going to test it out. And I'll be honest and truthful with you. I want to use the best product. I want to use the one that makes me look good. I know that's a pretty tall order, but nevertheless, I want the one that makes me look good. I don't want to look like an idiot. Well, except on Streaming Idiots, it's okay then. And by the way, that's coming up in the next segment. But I want to use the one that's going to make you happy, because you're going to see a really clear feed, and you're going to have really good audio, and the video is going to be crisp and clear, and if it is, it'll be invisible, and you can concentrate on the message. Ah, yes, that's it. It's really the message that we're going to in all this. The technology is just a way of getting the technology is a way of getting the technology out of the way so that you can get the message. You can see the content. Yep. So whatever does it best, that's what I want to do. And as I've said before, I'm looking forward to learning more about Wirecast, learning more about vMix, and comparing those. And coming up soon, we probably will have a little shootout on the three of them. That'll be fun, where we have some challenges and try to do them within a short period of time. But I want to be fair to the other softwares and learn them so that I can execute the challenge as quickly as if I knew them as well as I know VidBlaster. I can breathe again. Okay, so that was the news. So how do you know? How will you know? Number one, I'm going to tweet it. So you want to follow me on Twitter. There's no doubt about that. You definitely want to follow me on Twitter. Let's see if I've got that Twitter stuff up here. Yeah, there we go. At VidBlasterGuy on Twitter. And yeah, and if you definitely want to follow me, that VidBlaster Guy on YouTube, because if you miss a show, if you're one of the subscribers, I think, on YouTube, you'll get an email and say, "Oh, Tom posted another video. Go out and watch it quick. It's really great," or something like that. And on Twitter, I don't Twitter bomb. I'm going to do 4 or 5 tweets a week. Most of them are going to be on show day, or if something really exciting happens. So you can go to my Twitter feed. I think it's going to be twitter.com/VidBlasterGuy, and that'll take you straight to that, and you can read all the tweets there. But would love to have you follow me on Twitter and subscribe on YouTube, and I think it will benefit you. I don't know if it'll benefit me or not, but it'll definitely benefit you. So I'm going to use my macro turn off all overlay button. I like that. So, all right, now coming up, what we want to, oh, we don't have much time. What can we do here? Because we don't have much time. Golly gee. We're going to have to delay it till next week. Next week on That VidBlaster Guy. How about that for the promo? Excuse me. Next week on That VidBlaster Guy, we'll be talking about the great menus on the top of the screen. So if you're getting into VidBlaster for the first time, you'll want to make sure that you watch us next Wednesday, because we'll be talking about the file menu, the view menu, the modules menu, the video menu, and the help menu, and how those interact with the modules that go on the screen, and kind of talk about what's the best way to learn the software. So it'll be a sort of a tutorial, as it were. So that'll be coming up next week on That VidBlaster Guy, 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom, British summertime, 11 o'clock in Moscow, and 5 a.m. Thursday morning in Melbourne, Australia. So I think we covered most of the bases on that one. So keep an eye out. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Watch us live. Join the chat room. Be blessed. Have a great life. All that stuff. If you're watching live, hang around. We're not going anywhere. If you're watching us on YouTube, check out the Streaming Idiot show we're going to release on Friday, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I'm Tom Sinclair. On behalf of all of us here at That VidBlaster Guy, yeah, that would be all of us in meeting me. Thanks for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Maybe live. All right? Take care. Bye now.